All right, what's up? Brent here. I'm the jazz musician behind LearnJazzStandards.com, and in today's video, I want to talk about something really important for musicians to talk about, and that is how to avoid and how to overcome musical burnout. Now, tell me if you can relate to any of this. You're tired of the way you sound. Maybe you're even tired of your instrument. You want to try another instrument out because you're just kind of sick of it. Maybe you just feel like you're not improving at all and you're just frustrated and upset. Maybe you just want to give up on music altogether. You're just tired of all of it and you're just burned out and anxious. Well, I know I can relate to that, and I've certainly been there before, and I imagine I'll be there in the future. But there's a lot of things that we can do to help avoid this feeling and keep moving forward. Because at the end of the day, we all want to keep improving. We want to keep moving forward as musicians, but of course there's going to be frustrations along the way. There's going to be setbacks. There's going to be times where we just feel like giving up, or maybe just not motivated to practice at all. We need to get that motivation back. So what I'd like to share with you today is 3 tips that has really helped me either avoid or move past these issues of musical non-motivation and feeling musically burnt out. So I hope these help. Let's go into them right now. All right, number 1 is invest in long-term results and not short-term. Now, that's so much easier said than done as musicians, because have you ever done this? Have you ever practiced for 3 or 5 hours, a long period of time, and you thought to yourself, well, I surely must have improved because I just spent so much time practicing, so much time working on this. But then at the end of the session, you kind of realized, I don't really feel like I improved at all. Or maybe you even do that for a week. You do these long hours, and you think about everything mathematically. 5 hours plus 2 hours plus 1 hour, and then a 3-hour gig, and then a 2-hour jam session equals improvement. But you're kind of missing the point when you do that. Let's think about it this way. Think about a family and a little kid. Let's say this little kid is, of course, this little kid is growing up, right? But you're around this little kid all the time, and you don't necessarily see that the kid is growing taller or growing bigger, right? Because you're in that all the time. Now, when a relative from out of town or someone comes from out of town and sees the kid, they're like, oh my gosh, that kid has grown so tall, right? That kid is bigger. And they really notice the difference, but you don't really notice the difference. And that's because you're with that kid all the time. You're in the situation, whereas that other person isn't. And it's the exact same thing with your music playing, with your jazz playing. You're there all the time, and you can't really feel the improvement. It takes someone else from the outside from seeing it. And for sure, you are improving. If you're going through the motions, if you're practicing, if you're going out there and doing things to improve, you are improving. Don't make a mistake about that. Don't worry about that. You are improving. But you just can't always see it for yourself. So you have to stop thinking about everything in short term and think about the long term. Think of it as a journey, not as this destination. Have fun in the process. So tip number one is invest in the long term, not the short term. All right, tip number 2 is just take a break and let the unconscious mind do its work. Now, there's been lots of studies done on this of when you take a break, when you step away from a situation, how your brain unconsciously starts to process the information. And maybe you can relate to this, because I know this has happened to me a lot of times. There's been times where I've taken several days off, or even up to a week of not even playing my instrument at all for a variety of different reasons. And when I came back and I played a gig or even sat down in the practice room, all of a sudden I was like, wow, this feels really good. Like I'm playing great stuff. I'm feeling really good about myself. And a big reason for that is you've given yourself some space, right? If you're feeling burnt out, tired, anxious, unmotivated to play your instrument, then just don't play for a little bit. Take a little bit of a break. Let yourself breathe. Get some separation from your instrument. A lot of musicians, they feel guilty if they don't practice. But if you're practicing and you're feeling unmotivated and you're not really getting anything done, then what's the point of practicing anyways? So take a break. Let your unconscious mind process some stuff. There are studies behind this, and it works. So definitely take advantage of this. Don't feel guilty about not practicing. All right, now tip number 3, my last tip, is spend just as much time getting inspired as you do actually practicing. Now, I am a jazz musician. I work out of here in New York City playing gigs around the city, but I'm also an entrepreneur. I'm in the jazz education realm. I'm here teaching on LearnJazzStandards.com. I got my podcast, my blog, and of course, videos here. And that's what I do for a living. I'm an entrepreneur, but I need to get inspired. So I follow lots of people on podcasts. I follow their work, and that keeps me fired up and motivated to keep doing things. And it's the same for me in my jazz playing too. If I'm not going out and seeing some of my favorite jazz musicians play, if I'm not playing with other musicians who are better than me, and thinking of that in a healthy way, in a constructive way. And if I'm not just constantly feeding myself music that makes me really excited and gives me energy, I'm gonna kind of fizzle out. So what I would suggest is make sure you spend lots of time going to those sources. You know, I live in New York City, so it's easy for me just to go to jazz clubs around here and get really fired up and amped up. And I know that you may not live in a city like this, or maybe you live in a more rural area. That's okay. Seek out a teacher who you respect, who can really give you motivation. You know, try to find your local jam session and get in there. Try to find a friend who's a really great player that could play along with you and help you. You need to get motivated. Listen to records. Really, the most basic thing you can do. Just sit down and listen to amazing players that are going to get you fired and amped up. So spend just as much time doing that as you do practicing, and I guarantee you that's going to really help you move past your musical burnout. All right, so here's my question for you today. I want you to answer this. How do you avoid, or how do you move past musical burnout? Give your tips in the comment section. Would love for everybody in the community to talk about it together. All right, now if you like this video, as I always say, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, make sure you like our page on Facebook, and of course, make sure you join our jazz community, our newsletter, learnjazzstandards.com/join. All right, I'm signing off, and I'm gonna see you in the next video.